When I was 18, my dad pressured me to marry Douglas, the son of a rich mafia boss who had a reputation for being cruel and reckless. Of course, I didn't want to marry him. He was a fat, ugly monster. But my family was desperately poor and used me as their ticket into a more comfortable life. But while on the altar, I started to feel itchy and said, "I'm not feeling well." Douglas responded, "It's too late to run away now. You're mine." But the dizziness turned into pain, and then I blacked out. When I woke up again, I was inside a hospital and my whole body was covered in rashes. The doctor said, "Don't worry, you're fine. But you've developed a rare skin condition called solar urticaria, or sun allergy. Whenever sunlight hits your skin, you will get rashes, feel dizzy, or worse." I thought he was kidding. How can someone be allergic to the sun? But Douglas got angry and screamed, "I don't care if she has an allergy. She's going to marry me today." Then he pulled me by my arm out of the hospital and drove us back to our wedding. Most people had already left, but the pastor was still there, and after he wed us, Douglas forcefully grabbed my wrist, pulled me towards him, and kissed me. It was absolutely disgusting. His breath smelled terrible, and then he said, "Now that you, pretty girl, are mine, it's time for you to come home with me." Well, most women have a good first night, but mine was terrible. I won't go into the details, but he loved humiliating me. It was so bad, I couldn't fall asleep afterward. The idea of living with this monster for the rest of my life made me cry. He only saw me as an object. My job was to wear lingerie and to pleasure him. And of course, he did with me whatever he wanted, no matter how much it hurt. Life seemed pointless until a musician moved into the small house next to ours. His name was Miguel, and he was incredibly handsome. We often talked over the fence, and he always listened when I told him about my cruel husband. But one time, I went over to his house and sat down next to him on the couch. At first, we were just flirting with each other, but then he put his hand on my leg. I knew where this was going, and I liked it. Then he pushed me back, took his shirt off, and showed me his muscular body. Wow, I had never been more aroused. He went on top of me, put his hands around my throat, and pushed me deeper into the couch. I knew he had complete power over me, but I wasn't scared. This was what I had always wanted, a guy who was both gentle and rough. Our affair went on for months, with Miguel often coming over to my house to see me. But one time while we were making out, my husband got home early. Miguel decided to hide under the bed, and when my husband came into the room, he said, "There's my pretty little girl. Oh, we're gonna have some fun today." He put his sausage hands on my body and kissed me. It was as disgusting as always, but I was already used to it. Next, he put a small mirror into the window and reflected the afternoon sun onto our bed. He always did that, because he loved seeing the pain in my face while the sun burned a rash into my chest. At one point, I screamed out of pain, and that's when Miguel had enough. He came up from under the bed, pulled my husband by his hair, and smashed him to the ground. Then Miguel tied him up with a rope. It was the same rope my husband had often used to tie my hands and feet to the bed. Miguel said, "I'm sorry, but I can't let that pig treat you like that. You are such a beautiful girl, and you deserve better than him." I responded, "But he is my husband, and now he's going to punish me worse than ever before." Miguel said, "Don't worry, let's just run away together." Well, I had no other option, so we took the train to New Orleans and started all over. It wasn't a luxurious life, but I was happy, because whenever Miguel came home from work, he'd pull me out of the kitchen and toss me onto the bed, get on top of me, he'd kiss me, he'd bite me, and yes, that's what I wanted. I wanted to ache, I wanted to suffer, I wanted to forget myself. Maybe those were the best times of my life. Miguel and I even decided to get married and have a kid, but right while I was pregnant, Miguel let his sister move in with us. She was pregnant too, and for some reason she hated me. I didn't understand why, until one night, she stormed into our bedroom and screamed at Miguel, "I've had enough. I won't let you treat me like a second-class wife anymore. Tell her the truth. Tell her I'm not your sister. Tell her that you are the father of my baby." Within seconds, my whole world crumbled. Miguel said, "I'm so sorry. After one of my shows, I got drunk and hooked up with her. I never wanted to get her pregnant, and I hope you can forgive me." Wow, I didn't know how to respond. I felt betrayed and wanted to break up, but I couldn't because I depended on Miguel's income to take care of my future baby. To make things worse, Miguel loved the other girl as much as he loved me, even though I was his wife. He even made us sleep inside the same bed, and there was nothing he loved more than kissing both of us at the same time. I got so frustrated that I asked him to kick the other girl out, but he responded, "She's carrying my baby. It would be wrong to leave her now." Well, that was convenient for him to say, because he loved having 2 women in his life. However, then I gave birth to my child. She was a beautiful girl, but suffered from a rare birth defect. The doctor said she was profoundly mentally handicapped and would never learn to speak or even walk. Of course, I still loved her, even though Miguel didn't feel the same way, because when I came back home from the hospital, I found an empty apartment. My husband had decided to run away with his new girlfriend. All he had left me was a small letter that read, "I'm sorry how all this ended, but I decided to start all over again. I wish you and our daughter the best." I won't lie, I almost had a mental breakdown. How was I supposed to take care of my daughter without a job? I figured I couldn't, so I gave her one last kiss and left her at an orphanage. Afterward, I called my dad. He was happy to hear I was alive, but told me that he had married my little sister to my ex-husband, Douglas. I was shocked. My sister was only 19, and Douglas was probably punishing her for me running away. That's why I immediately went back to my hometown and arranged a secret meeting with my little sister. When we met, I saw bruises and marks all over her body. She looked as if she'd been through hell. I asked, "How long have you been married to him?" And she responded, "For almost 2 years. Dad married me to him on my 18th birthday." And then my sister fell on her knees and begged me, "Please help me. I can't take it anymore. All I want to do is die." I knew I had to come up with a plan to get rid of Douglas once and for all, so I chose poison. It took me a few weeks to find the right recipe and ingredients, but according to my sources, whoever drank this potion would be dead within 2 minutes. Then I went to Douglas's office, smashed the window, and climbed inside. He had a bottle of rum standing on his desk, so I poured the poison in there. And to make sure no one got suspicious, I stole a few things to make it look like a burglary. 2 days later, it happened. Douglas drank from the bottle of rum I had poisoned. However, one of his mistresses also took a sip, and both were brought to the hospital. Luckily, his mistress survived, but so did Douglas. And after he recovered, he went home and accused my sister of poisoning him. Of course, she denied everything, but he did such horrible things to her that after days of pain, she said, "Okay, maybe it was my sister. I recently saw her back with my parents." After her confession, Douglas drove right to my parents' apartment, kicked in the door, and came inside. I was sitting on the couch when our eyes met. I knew he wanted to end my life. I knew I should have run into the kitchen and grabbed a knife to defend myself, but I was too scared and just froze, completely unable to move. Then he came to me, pulled me up by my hair, and said, "First you're gonna suffer, and then you're gonna die." He dragged me by my hair towards the door when I heard a doing sound, and Douglas broke down. I turned around and saw my 68-year-old dad holding a pan in his hand. He had knocked him out and said, "Enough of this bastard. I'll take care of him now." And then he dragged Douglas to his car, put him into the trunk, and drove away. No one ever saw him again. But this story isn't over yet. My sister inherited Douglas's money and houses. I assumed she would share some of it with our parents and me. But instead, she blamed us and said we didn't deserve the inheritance because we had forced her to marry Douglas. I responded, "I didn't know you were married to him, and I'm honestly sorry." But my sister didn't care and broke up all contact with us. Of course I understood that she was angry, but I still thought I deserved some of the inheritance because I had rescued her from Douglas. That's why I went to court and argued that Douglas and I had never gotten a legal divorce, and therefore, I should have received the inheritance. Luckily, the judge agreed and ruled all the inheritance over to me. Of course, my sister was incredibly angry and screamed to the judge, My sister poisoned Douglas. She did it. I was shocked because I wasn't sure if I would get into trouble, but she had no evidence to support her claim, so I had nothing to fear. And after I received the inheritance, I gave 1/3 to my sister, 1/3 to my parents, and then I went back to the orphanage in New Orleans, where I had left my daughter. However, she wasn't there anymore, and no one could tell me who had adopted her. I got angry and screamed, "So you just gave my daughter to some random person without writing down their contact details?" But no one cared. And today, I'm still searching for my daughter. I just need to know that she's doing well.